The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, or queer. That's what we're looking into for this special Insights into Northeast Michigan. Adrienne, MJ, and Ivan are three young people who live, work, or attend school in Alpena. They have boldly opened up about who they are in a community that holds traditional values. Our conversations are not right versus wrong. They're about human beings who have faced challenges because of their lifestyle. Some people may not understand how another person's gender, sexual identity, and race intersect in their lives. No matter how they identify, the gay community wants respect and dignity in order to live freely. So Adrienne, can you talk to me about the role that you're playing tonight in Hairspray?
So I'm in the ensemble, but I'm also a Dynamite, which is usually a female role. And what the Dynamites do is that they're kind of the backup dancer slash like hype men for Edna, who is kind of like down on herself and is a very self-deprecating woman and feels like she's not beautiful enough to go out in the world and encourage her daughter and be there with her daughter and be just kind of that motivational and beautiful woman that she actually is. And so my character is there along with two other women to kind of help her feel her best self. And eventually you see her come out in this beautiful dress and we're all singing and dancing and having a good time. And
so you're wearing a dress and Hairspray.
So actually I'm wearing heels. So usually, conventionally because of the concert version, the Dynamites would be wearing dresses, but we're all in heels and we actually have fun boas. And I just dancing, keeping up with the girls in heels right alongside of them.
In what way do you relate to your character in Hairspray? You know, some people will frown upon men wearing heels or wearing clothing that's deemed for women to wear. You know, what do you have to say about wearing heels on stage?
I lately have been on this kind of journey of androgyny because I think that clothes especially can be for anyone and it just expresses a different part of ourselves. And I think that heels especially have given me a purpose to always be up and kind of just be this like, this pillar of like strength and like the highest level I can be and just finding different ways for clothes can express you and breaking like those kind of gender norms because after all, at the end of the day, like gender is a social construct.
So for those of us who don't know, what is androgyny?
Androgyny is basically you don't necessarily associate something with a gender and so you're kind of like mixing of things. So I may not wear a full face of makeup, but I'll wear like what is deemed as boy clothes with like a set of heels, or I may put on makeup one day, but I'm still wearing my boy clothes, or I might be fully in female clothes, but I won't like put on, like I won't be in drag because I'm not adding extra padding to myself or I'm not tucking necessarily or anything like that.
How do you identify?
I still identify as male. I still think that my head is like definitely in the male gender, but I definitely do think that there are certain things of the female aspect that I definitely have a more feminine personality and a more effeminate personality about myself, but I just think that that doesn't necessarily define how like dominant or submissive or whatever I am. It's just like I'm me and I have feminine qualities and I have masculine qualities.
How do you think people in Northeast Michigan take your androgynous personality?
Oh, they're definitely shook by it. And it's honestly, it's something that I live to do because I think that the world is never going to change if you don't try and expose the world to new things that they're not used to. And so I've definitely been through a fair amount of things and trials in my life where I'm not scared of people to see me for who I am because like they can't tell me something that I already have heard or seen or been through or felt, and it doesn't scare me anymore because at the end of the day, I'm changing the world one step at a time.
When people see you and you're wearing your heels and your skirt out in public, what's the reaction? You're saying that they're shocked, but do they say anything to you?
Sometimes I get glares, sometimes I get slurs, sometimes I get people coming up to me, sometimes I get smiles and hugs and like, you're amazing, you're awesome, like you definitely aren't from here, and it's just like all a mix of it, and I embrace it all. Like usually if people glare at me, I either smile back or wave, or like I just dance even harder, or I just give them a show because obviously they're staring for some reason, so I give them a reason to look.
Adrienne, you have a very strong personality. I see the confidence in your face with everything I've been talking to you about so far, but are there moments where you're like, man, why do I deserve to be treated like this?
Mm-hmm. And 100%. I mean, I think we all will have our moments, and like myself, I have plenty of moments where I get down and I'm kind of like, what's even the point anymore, because it seems like nothing's ever changing. And then I realized that at the end of the day, I'm not doing this for anyone else but myself. I'm doing this because it's what I enjoy to do and it's what I love to do. And I have to forget that if I'm not gonna love myself, how else is anyone else gonna love me at the end of the day? So I have to make sure I have my self-love before I can even try and spread love to other people and try and make people get in the idea of inclusivity and acceptance and tolerance, because you gotta make sure they have a good figure and a good role model to look after.
Do you think people in Northeast Michigan are ready to accept men or women who choose to be androgynous, or those who cross the fence between male and female? Do you think Northeast Michigan is ready for that?
I think, especially doing that and crossing this bridge this summer, I think that they are more ready than any of us were expected to be.
How so?
And ready as in, like, I guess not as ready to like fight back, but at least if they don't agree, they're ready to just sit by. You know, it's kind of like they're not necessarily ready to accept, but they can bystand, and like, I'm not gonna feel like I have to fight every time I go out on heels. Now, there may be a couple times, like there was one time I almost got into a fight outside of a restaurant because me and my friend, because me and my friend were just walking out of a restaurant and we were being our gay, effeminate selves, and then we got called a couple of faggots, and then I turned around and I was like, what did you say? And then it's like, so I'm ready to fight the battle, but I think and I've been proven that more people are ready to accept this culture than I thought so.
So not only do you stand out because you're a black man, but you also identify as a gay man.
Right.
So do you ever feel like those two intersectionalities conflict with you being in Alpena? You've been here for a while.
100%. So last summer, actually, the first time we went out at a bar, a couple people saw me because like there's a lot of white women here, and like I'm friends and we're close and we're touchy, and so I was just hugging on one of my friends, and then I watched 3 people mouth the N-word to a couple of their friends just because I was hugging on a girl. And so I've just learned being here and being in the world, because like my college town was also almost as conservative as this place was. And I got jumped for being black and gay there. But I do remind myself that I am in a phenomenal community here. This theater community and this family that I have in this theater here are some of the most strong, supportive, loving, open-minded people I've ever met in my life. And so I realized the fact that words from a total stranger that doesn't even know me and doesn't even want to spend the effort to get to know me, and how we could do so much better for each other, I don't need to waste my time or my energy on that when I have so many people here that love me, lift me up, and accept me for who I am, and want my energy, and want my presence, and want my support. And I realized that I know who I am, and I'm proud of who I am, and no one's gonna take that away from me. Because I've worked so hard, like 23 now, and like that may not seem like anything, but I've been working on it for a long time now. And I'm not about to let anyone take that away from me.
Now, Adrienne, you're a professional actor. Why do you think the theater community has been so open to accepting people like you?
I think
Where does that come from?
I think that comes from the fact that because of experiences I have from being minorities, I know how to make good art, and I know how to tell good stories, and I know how to make people sitting in these seats feel something. And at the end of the day, that's all theater is about. It's about telling a good story, and it's about making sure someone leaves here changed.
So what story are you telling me today?
I guess the story I'm telling you today is just acceptance and loving yourself. It's self-acceptance, it's self-love, and it's also community, and it's also spreading love, and it's also spreading positivity. Only you know how to be who you are. And no one can do you better than you can. And you have a place, and you have a presence, and you have a purpose in this world. And no one can take that away from you, so revel in it.
Most of my family is downstate. They were here at one point, but I've been braving it on my own here for a few years. I was studying fine arts at the local college here for a little bit, but I'm on hiatus right now, just kind of figuring out what I want to do next.
Why do you love the fine arts community? Why are you so into drawing?
I think with art, we put the beauty we wish was in the world into the world. You know, we're manifesting the things that we want. At least that's what it is to me. I can draw people however I want. I can make a universe however I want. I can make people feel what I want them to feel and maybe even be able to relate to me just by looking at something I've created.
So what are some things that you've created that you want manifested? You talk about people seeing who you are. Well, who is MJ?
MJ is someone that knows what it feels like to be the underdog, I guess. And I think throughout everything I do, that remains in the background, you know, driving everything. I want to not only express myself in ways that I may have felt like I wasn't able to before, but I also want to provide an avenue for other people to feel comfortable enough to express themselves and to feel a sense of solidarity. You know, by me putting myself out there, by me putting my inner feelings and, you know, fears and emotions into an art piece, you know, other people can feel like they can do the same thing in whatever avenue they choose.
Why do you feel like the underdog?
Just because I'm different. You know, I've got a lot of otherness about me as someone who's biracial, someone who's a woman or woman appearing, and someone who has a gender identity that's not in the binary, which is something that a lot of people don't understand, you know, and a lot of people don't want to understand. And, you know, when you have a lot of otherness wrapped up in one person, you know, you live life as an underdog a lot of the time.
So we're inside of a comic shop. This screams MJ, the artist. Is that why you come here so much?
Absolutely. You know, I feel safe here. I feel like my people are here. You know, you step in here and it's a whole other world. You know, the atmosphere is just, it's so welcoming, and there's so many different story arcs around you, so many different art styles, and so many different demographics represented as well. And I think that, you know, anyone that's into fantasy and just reading in general, not just comic book art, like seeing that they can see themselves in a work, you know, like that, where they may not see themselves represented in real life, especially here, you know. I tend to gravitate towards this area of the store, mostly. This is where a lot of the independent titles are. What I love about independent comic titles so much is that they don't care about the boundaries they're pushing. You know, they have those characters that have deviating religious views, ethnic backgrounds, sexualities, identities, and they're not really concerned about whether or not their movie can be well received, or I mean their story can be well received in like a movie screen, you know, where I think that like Marvel and DC are kind of more commercial in that regard. Yeah.
You talked about how these comics push social boundaries, and you are someone who told me that you are gender fluid. MJ, what does that mean to be gender fluid?
It's in the category of non-binary, and the binary being, you know, masculine and feminine as we traditionally define it. And a lot of people find themselves not aligned strictly with either one, you know, somewhat in between. And that was something that was always true of me growing up. And I always wanted to put a name to it, but couldn't.
What does that look like?
For me, my identity is really closely linked with my expression. Even growing up, femininity wasn't something that I really expressed or delved into until I started getting a lot older and found myself needing to look for work and having to almost teach myself how to be a well-received female presenting person, if that makes sense. You know, a lot of my time in grade school, I was just one of the guys, but at the same time I wasn't.
Are you attracted to both sexes? Are you traditionally attracted to the opposite sex, or how does that look on the sexuality side and not the gender side?
For me, I think the best way to describe my sexuality is pansexual, but there are lots of different subcategories that you could go into it. I mostly am attracted to women, but I date men too. It's just not as it doesn't come as easily for me, I guess. It's more natural for me to just lean towards women, and I always was that way growing up, but I also didn't feel comfortable expressing it. And I think that I internalized a lot of like the fear of expressing that and a lot of the prejudice that you receive, and so I distanced myself from girls even, not expressing that femininity, only surrounding myself with the boys, and just like, but at the same time vehemently denying any claims that maybe I didn't like boys as much as I let on.
You had to do that to protect yourself.
Yeah.
How has Alpena or Northeast Michigan treated you in regards to who you identify with on the inside?
In school, I was bullied relentlessly for being gay before I even came to terms with knowing I liked women. Here in Alpena? Yeah, just because of the assumptions that people make. I would get food thrown at me in the halls, and I would get guys grabbing me up, I just got tortured, and people would scream, all sorts of lesbian slurs at me, and like start rumors that I was dating certain girls, and I think that experience, it really hindered my development in my identity, because I was so hurt by the reaction I received every day that I just pushed it down and down and down, and I didn't want to be what they were telling me I was. I didn't want anything to do with that. I just wanted it all to stop, and it took a long time after graduating for me to even address that trauma and realize that I had just been internalizing all of it and pushing down my own identity and my own feelings and not living authentically. And it's crucial to be having these conversations, because I'm not the only kid who went through the system not knowing who they are and having to not only jump over that hurdle, but also to jump over the hurdle of trauma from being tortured their entire experience, and having to deal with that mistrust of people, that mistrust of yourself, of knowing yourself. And people grow up like this every single day, and not everyone gets past it. I think it plays into part of the reason why so many people of the LGBTQ community turn to drugs or are homeless, or have super high suicide rates. These things need to be talked about, and we need some sort of change. We need a catalyst for change. We keep talking about change, but I think that this kind of atmosphere, these kind of conversations will be the catalyst for that change, and showing people, no, you don't have to grow up this way, and no, it's not acceptable to treat people this way.
Well, I came out as transgender 3 years ago, almost. 2.5 roughly right now. It's been an interesting journey, definitely, I'd say that. Living in Alpena, people aren't really exposed to this type of, they just aren't really exposed to this type of community like very often. So, especially like me being a youth, like going to the high school, these high school students haven't really like met anyone like this.
Help me understand, what does it mean to be trans?
You are born in a body that isn't what your mind like connects with, really. So I was born female, but as I got older and started to realize there was a word for this, I realized that this really wasn't who I was. Like, this was a body that I was born in, but it wasn't what my mind really connected with and what my mind like processed.
So do you identify as a trans man, a trans male? What's the correct term?
Yeah, I identify as a trans male. So FTM means female to male, and then MTF would be male to female. So I identify as an FTM trans male.
One thing that Adrienne talked about was adults like him helping youth who identify as LGBTQ be who they are. So, in your short time of knowing Adrienne, how has he helped you be comfortable with who you are as a person?
Definitely Adrienne has like been there for me when I need to talk about certain things that like happen outside of the theater, like if someone says something or something, I know I can go talk to him and it'll like reassure me that it's just people being ignorant or people just not willing to give the time to understand. So he's definitely made me feel like I'm not the problem, like being myself isn't the problem. It's just people not willing to listen or give the opportunity to try to understand what's going on.
Like, I just remind him to remember who he is and like who I know that he is, and that I know he's bigger than all those small people and those small-minded people, and his brain and his heart and his personality is a lot bigger than those people will ever be to him. And so their words, their actions, their behavior, their energy can never belittle or take him down from where he is, and where he is where he's going to reside in this world. And so it's just giving him that brief reminder.
Can we get a little personal, Ivan?
Yeah.
And talk about your life as a female. Break down to someone who doesn't understand what it's like to live in a body that you feel isn't yours.
I was never really like, up until like I actually like dressed myself, I didn't really ever want to wear dresses. They just weren't my thing. And like I never like took a second thought about it. I was just like, okay, like I like jeans and like sweatshirts, and that's like what I wore. Like I always knew there was something, but I couldn't really put my mind on it, so I just kind of grew up and was just going with the flow. And then one day I was watching a YouTube video, actually, just one of my favorite YouTubers, and she had a transgender person on there. And I was like, I really relate to this. Like, 2.5 years later, probably my biggest supporters are my mom and my sister. It's the little things that count too. Like, I remember this one time I was helping my uncle and my mom move a piano, and he was like, oh, you're the doorman or whatever. And it was just like those little things, you know, like progress is coming. Yeah.
I think Ivan has really grown in the fact that he stops letting things bother him as much as he did last year. And that's a thing you learn with time, and I mean, he has, in my opinion, a lot tougher of a journey than I ever will. Or like at least a different one, because he's already a person of color, and then he comes out as trans, and trans people are already overlooked, not even by just the world in general, but even by the gay community itself.
Adrienne mentioned that you're a person of color. What are you, Ivan?
I'm 100% Guatemalan.
Guatemalan?
Yeah.
One thing I know is that sexuality is not the same thing as gender, but they cross.
Yes.
Adrienne, a little while back, opened up to me and said that he's a gay black man. And for you, this conversation has been about your gender. What about your sexuality, where those intersections cross?
The way I look at it is I am a trans guy, so like I identify as straight because I am attracted to females, but I don't really put a label on it. If I were to fall in love with a guy, then it happened. Like, that's just how it is. Love is love. Like, I can't help who I catch feelings for or who I happen to marry one day. So I label myself as straight right now, but if something were to happen in the future, then it just happens.
Do you think people turn ahead when you say things like, oh, I'm trans, but identify as straight? You think that confuses people?
Yeah, definitely. For people who don't know me, I think it's a little confusing for them, because it's like, wait, you changed your gender, but like that's not the gender you technically still are. Like, wouldn't that be considered like a lesbian or something? And no, that's not how it is, because you identify as something, that's what you are, that's who you are. So I identify as a guy, so I am a guy. And the typical label for a guy that likes a girl or is attracted to females is straight.
What do you have to say about guys like the one that was driving down a car and you guys were just minding your own business, saying faggots out the window?
I mean, that's just like, I've gotten to the point, and it really is disheartening and saddening that I've just been so desensitized to it. It happens so much, and there are just so many like awful things, and it's just like, and there's so much worse that could happen. I mean, like, thank God he didn't kill me, because people are getting shot and killed or just jumped on sight for being black, gay, trans, like whatever.
You don't have to like me. You know, you don't even have to use the right pronouns or the right name. Just don't talk to me. Like, you don't need to be in my life if you're gonna, like, if you can't respect me. Because I'm doing nothing to you. I'm respecting you. I'm respecting what you're doing with your life. Like, it's not bothering me because it's your life, and this is my life. I'm not bothering you. I'm not getting in the way of your life. I'm not getting in the way of your schoolwork. I'm not getting in the way of how you're living. I'm just doing me over here. So
Way over here.
just for like anyone else watching this that like may like go through this, just time becomes your best friend, and you just gotta wait it out, and it does get better after a while.
Yeah, I would agree. I would just say that, like, the way this world and this universe works with whatever you believe, higher power, nothing, no God, yes God, and regardless, you will never go through more than you can bear. Nothing will be put on you that you cannot get through and that you cannot survive. And anyone who sees this, take care of yourself, reach out. Suicide is a very permanent option that no one needs to do. If you're watching, then just know that you're not alone. And if you're watching this and you're not even feeling that way, just take the extra step to reach out to people, because you never know what's going on.